Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Together with the Office Blokes.
Yes.
Nothing new, nothing
Anything
exciting.
interesting on today, Dave?
Anything exciting going on, Dave?
Nothing. Earlier on, just before.
No, nothing. No, it's just a normal day. Completely average, normal day. Nothing to report. How hard is it to become a Delta Force operator?
I've never looked into it.
I don't know what you're laughing at, Mike. It's just a normal day.
Yeah.
It's just nothing.
Very.
Yep, absolutely. Should we see how hard it is to become a Delta Force operator?
Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, or Delta Force, remains cloaked equally in official secrecy and popular legend. Becoming a member of this legendary group is no easy task. Just how much torture is a person willing to undergo to get a prestigious job? Given that an average of 250 resumes are submitted for every job position in the United States, one would assume quite a lot. But there's writing endless resumes, and then there's running 40 miles at night on an uneven forest trail while lugging a 50-pound rucksack with more weight added upon achieving each waypoint. And to even get into the application pool for that particular job, you first have to master the art of willingly jumping out of a perfectly functional airplane. This refers, of course, to the admission process for the U.S. Army's top commando unit, the Delta Force. Currently, the Delta Force receives its recruits from all across the Army, including many candidates from the Ranger regiments and Special Forces groups. To initially qualify, recruits must be enlisted in the Army, be male, have at least 4 years in service, and 2.5 years of...
Did you say you got to be male?
I think you did.
Actually, yeah.
I think, like, traditionally, most Special Forces are supposed to be male, but then it's like recent years where they've started allowing women to apply.
Yeah.
I remember one of the SAS Who Dares Wins, and there was she was the first ever female Norwegian Special Forces.
Oh, yeah.
And she was one of the, what do you call them?
Instructors.
The instructors, and
Yeah.
she was an absolute badass.
Yeah,
She really was.
Well, you got to be in that level of eliteness in military.
Probably more
Yeah,
so
any-
than a lot of the guys,
Yeah.
because she had more to prove,
More to
didn't
prove,
she?
I would guess, but if you're good enough, you're good enough, aren't you?
I think I know what you mean. I think I've seen her, actually, now you mention it.
Yeah.
The girl from Norway. Yeah.
I'm all for it. If you're a badass, you're a badass.
Yeah,
At the end of the
Absolutely.
day.
If you can do the job, it don't matter.
So you want leading your Special Forces teams, isn't it? Simple.
Yeah.
The best.
The best, absolutely.
Male or female.
Yeah.
service left on enlistment and is within the rank of Army Specialist to Master Sergeant. Keep in mind that there are no civilian enrollment program at Delta Force. To get started, one must attend Infantry One Station Unit Training, OSUT, which combines Army Basic Training and Infantry Advanced Individual Training AIT in one 14-week course. This will give you the fundamental skills to make a successful transition from a civilian into a soldier. If you pass that, then you will attend airborne training at Fort Benning. Special Forces troopers who eventually want to join Delta Force must qualify for and complete this particular training. Next up is the Special Operations Preparation Course, SOPC, which can take 4 weeks and typically leads up to the Special Forces Assessment and Selection Program, SFAS. The Special Forces Assessment must be passed before being admitted to Special Forces training. If the boxes are all checked by now, then you will aim to pass the individual skills phase of training. During this period, soldiers are trained on specialized skills necessary to be successful in any Special Forces engagement. The training period is 40 days long and covers land navigation, cross-country map exercise, and small unit tactics. Taking up another 65 days is the Military Operational Specialty Training phase, which culminates with a mission planning cycle that will put your leadership skills to the test. Your experience, training, and specialty as a soldier will largely dictate what responsibilities you'll have during Military Operational Specialty. For the 38-day collective training phase, soldiers are trained in special operations classes, direct action isolation, air operations, unconventional warfare classes, and receive isolation training. This is considered one of the most mentally and physically challenging training one will have to go through in the U.S. military. To offer some sense of what an individual must overcome to be admitted into the Delta Force, here's what author Eric Haney had to say about one particular long-distance hike in his book Inside Delta Force. I had covered just slightly over 30 miles by now, but still had more than 20 to go. It was getting more and more difficult to do speed computations in my head. My hands were tingling from the rucksack straps cutting into my shoulders, pinching the nerves and arteries, and restricting the blood flow to my arms. I was bent forward against the weight of the rucksack. It felt like I was dragging a train behind me, and my feet hurt all the way up to my knees. I don't mean they were just sore, I mean they felt like I had been strapped to the rack and someone had beaten the balls of my feet with a bat. I tried to calculate the foot-pounds of energy my feet had absorbed so far today, but I had to give up the effort. I only knew that the accumulated tonnage of all those thousands of steps was immense, and it was only going to get worse. Technically an elite counterterrorism special
50-mile hike.
50 miles.
I don't like driving 50 miles.
Wow.
It's a pain in the arse, isn't it?
Even just walking as normal without like killing loads of kilograms of kit on your back, it'd be pretty bad, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
50 miles of that, wow.
Yeah.
That's some going.
The last hike me and Ash did was about 14 miles, and I had a heavy bag because I had loads of water with me because it was a really hot
It's a
day.
long weekend.
No, but that like 14 miles and then getting back was absolutely fucking brutal. You know, by the time we finally got to a pub for food.
So you walked 14 miles and then 14 miles back? Or
No.
7 miles out, 7 miles back?
Well, it was a circular route.
Right,
We did
okay.
about 14 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was a heavy bag, but nothing like these guys are carrying. And that was just ridiculous by the end of it. We were out for about 6-7 hours, and I was just dead. Completely dead. So you think these guys... I know these guys are fit and they're trained and everything else.
What'd
but
you do that for?
For fun.
Sounds like a blast, mate.
It's called hiking. It's what lots of people do.
Yeah.
But, 50 miles with a pack that's probably like 4 times the weight of what I
Have to carry the rifle all the way.
Probably.
Well,
I presume
I guess
so,
they do,
yeah.
because they're well, you'll know they're probably a few pounds, are they? I would guess.
I don't know. I don't do
I
pounds.
don't know,
Yeah, probably a couple of kilos, I would say.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's, well, some going now.
Navigating as well and keeping a decent pace.
It
And
won't be just like a nice level surface all the way either, will it?
No.
It'll be up and down hills. It'll be absolutely everywhere, won't it? So
it's not going to be, I'm just going to stop for 20 minutes.
I'm just gonna
and
have a pint
little
here.
rest.
yeah, just have a quick break.
Yeah.
Get your pork pie out.
Missions Unit, Delta Force has been involved in virtually every major U.S. military action since the 1980s, whether attempting to rescue political prisoners from a fortified prison in Grenada, nabbing Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega, hunting Scud missiles behind Iraqi lines, battling Somali warlords, assassinating ISIS leaders, and even assisting Mexican Marines in a deadly gun battle that saw the capture of drug kingpin El Chapo. And one can only speculate about all the missions that remain classified. The unit's existence remains ritually unacknowledged by the U.S. government, despite its organization and aliases. A common one is Combat Application Group, CAG, being reasonably well documented in books by former members and its exploits celebrated in movies like Black Hawk Down and television series like The Unit. Delta Force was founded by Colonel Charles Beckwith, who had served in the 1960s as an exchange officer with the British Special Air Service while it was engaged in a grinding but successful counterinsurgency campaign against communist guerrillas in Malaysia. Beckwith was one tough cookie. During his stint commanding SAS troops in the jungle, he nearly died from a bacterial infection. Then, while commanding Green Berets in Vietnam, he was struck by a .50 caliber slug and survived after being triaged as a lost cause. These experiences left their impression on the Georgia native, who went on to devise the rigorous Q course used to train the Green Beret Special Operations Forces of today. Beckwith was convinced the Army needed an even more elite direct action unit with the mental and physical fortitude to operate independently at length in the field. Furthermore, he emphasized that units should only be composed of experienced officers and non-commissioned officers, NCOs, who had already proven their skills in the field. Today, Beckwith's vision still informs Delta Force's selective training regimen. To even qualify for the Delta Operator Training course, Delta recruits must possess years of experience, with qualification for parachute operations, a secret security clearance, and a clean disciplinary record. Reportedly, these requirements mean that 3/4 of Delta Force recruits are sourced from the Army's 2 other primary special operations units, the 75th Ranger Regiment, which often engages in larger-scale operations behind enemy lines, and the Green Berets, who specialize in embedding with, training and leading local forces in foreign countries. The operator training course itself places heavy emphasis on perfecting marksmanship, especially in hostage rescue contexts. Several facilities are maintained solely to practice hostage rescue scenarios in realistic environments ranging from large civilian buildings to airliners and warships. Delta trainees also receive instruction in demolitions, lockpicking, and even bomb-making techniques. They are trained by CIA operatives in espionage techniques, from shadowing persons of interest to transmitting intelligence via dead drops and even aggressive tactical driving, the kind you thought was only a fantasy reserved for action movies. Only a
I was going to say, it does sound like straight out of action movies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does a bit.
Well, it kind of is. That action movies are based on things like this, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not going to do an action movie just for a regular soldier who's not really in the firing line and doing dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting to know they were sort of like inspired by the SAS as well. For the Rangers and the Green Berets.
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
It does.
I think the SAS were World War II, they were founded, weren't they?
I think it was something like that. Yeah, I think you might be right
I'm
there.
fairly certain it was, so I'm not sure other countries had the same sort of level of special operators
Yeah, that's
at
right.
that point.
fraction of those selected to undertake the OTC manage to complete it. Obviously, it takes a rare individual to muster the physical endurance, mental adaptability, and sheer ambition to first qualify and then complete the 6-month operator training course. But there's also a sobering subtext to the extreme training regimen. Delta Force has historically often been called upon to perform missions with a high risk of failure. Operation Eagle Claw, the only Delta mission led by Beckwith, was an attempt to rescue hostages at the U.S. Embassy in Iran in 1979. It ended in flames before even encountering enemy forces when one of the helicopters involved crashed into the tanker it was refueling from, killing 8. In October 1993, Delta snipers Randy Sugar and Gary Gordon Delta hopped off an orbiting helicopter, having insisted they need to insert on the ground to save crashed Army helicopter pilot Michael Durant from a besieging mob in the streets of Mogadishu, Somalia. Both were killed minutes later, along with 3 other Delta operators who perished in a day-long battle that left roughly 1,000 dead. During the early years of the hunt for bin Laden, Delta operators saw action in Afghanistan, at one point coming to the rescue of Afghan President Hamid Karzai after he was nearly killed by an errant laser-guided bomb, and more discreetly in Pakistan and India's Kashmir province. They also participated in numerous raids during the invasion of Iraq and the lengthy counterinsurgency conflict that followed. Near the end of the U.S. mission in Iraq in 2009, the Washington Post reported roughly half of all Delta operatives in Iraq had received Purple Hearts for being injured in combat. In this light, the unit's brutal selection and training process is revealed to have a purpose beyond physical fitness fetishism. It's to help identify the kinds of individuals with the physical prowess and motivation to repeatedly undertake dangerous missions, which may indeed at times prove to be impossible.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an elite regiment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that the highest regiment there is in the
We actually,
US military?
when you were off, we did a video that compared all the different special forces,
Yeah,
didn't
I
we?
think we did actually, yeah.
I think that might be the cream of the crop for the army.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because
But
they
then-
take them from Green Berets and the
Yeah.
Rangers, don't they?
But then obviously, like, the Navy SEALs are from the Navy, and
Yeah,
there's
that's
other
right.
other unit. There was one that was like a, was it called like a special recon group or something?
was it taken from Delta Force and other?
They're
I think-
taken
Top-man,
from.
something like that.
Is
Yeah.
it DevGru?
I'm not
What's
sure.
that?
I don't think it's DevGru. But this one was like, they were communications experts, but they went behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
And it was like, it seemed like they took all of the best out of all of the best and then
Yeah,
gave
from
them an
a new
even
one.
more dangerous job.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
It
certain
was
operations.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a big thing of it is the mental fortitude, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
you've got
you've got to be good physically, but I mean, mentally, I mean, some of the
They can
situations
train you to be good physically.
Yeah.
Train mentally. I mean, you've got to go through training for that as well, but you've got to be strong as well. Haven't you?
You've either got it or you haven't, though, I think.
Yeah, you've got. Right. I mean, you see some of these guys in the programs that we watch with Ant Middleton and sort. You can just tell, can't you, mentally?
Yeah.
They're so switched on, so strong.
It's interesting that they said Delta Force is for people with an impeccable record, but then it was based, or sort of like loosely around the SAS, which the SAS is quite a few criminals and things like that. Isn't it? It's like naughty boys that go to the SAS. And all
is it?
Yeah. Ant Middleton did prison time before.
People you want just the craziest sort of like mindset. That's who's going to lead you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They install the discipline and the physical aspects of it all, but you've got to have that mental.
Plus, everyone's capable of one stupid thing when they're younger.
Yeah.
And I think Ant Middleton chinned a cop.
Yeah.
Like, I think he punched a cop on a night out and did a bit of prison time
just
for
need
it.
direction sometimes, don't you? Things like this can give them direction.
Discipline from military, big time. Yeah, anyway,
Nice.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Guys.